The focus of the budget was clearly on employment, and I would say employment is much wider than jobs. But more broadly, I would say that one should see this budget in at least three timeframes. The timeframe of the remainder of this fiscal year till the 1st of February, when the new budget will be announced, the life of this parliament, which is 5 years. But as many of your viewers would know, India has committed to, or has an aspiration to become a developed society, with all that that implies. We don't have time to go into it, by the centenary of India's independence in 2047. And so I think that it's somewhat misplaced to regard this program as being only a response to the election results. It is the case that India has been adding jobs, but they have been low productivity jobs. And the only way for India to accelerate its growth rate is to move its demographic dividend, its labor force, into higher productivity jobs. And that's going to require various kinds of structural change. So I want to present the budget as a supply-side budget, which is aimed at getting a better return out of India's demographic dividend, and against a background, I'm sorry, not of a serious joblessness problem, but a problem of low productivity.
A problem of low productivity. Do you think enough is being done in this budget to address the supply side issue? And what would that also mean for overall inflation, where we might see some ease coming in with supply bottlenecks clearing out?
Well, the issue is how you measure inflation. India has, for sound reasons, opted for to target headline inflation. And headline inflation is very much impacted by what's happening with food prices, vegetable prices, which in turn are an important part of the consumption basket. But if you look at, if you like, the core inflation, which is itself quite sensitive to what's happening on energy prices, I might say, that is relatively stable for a country that's had grown at 8% and is expected to grow at 7%. But yes, it is the case that the labor market, it does not work well on a national basis, and it's a very complicated labor market. We draw a distinction between the informal sector and the formal sector. That's in terms of largely manufacturing, but also services. There are, all kinds of informal sector workers, and the budget addresses each of them. But I think what is the flagship initiative here is to get first-time youth who are entering the labor market by paying them to skill themselves so they can enter what is called formal employment, which means they are registered in the social security system. So will actions on the supply side help to remove inflationary bottlenecks? I would think so. But it's also the case that the budget begins with a chapter on agriculture. And as I've already mentioned, agricultural supply constraints and marketing constraints are factors that have been leading to the volatility of inflation, if not its long-term trend after the disruptions post-COVID has been coming down and is actually lower than it is in many of the advanced countries.